Hello everyone, the name's Stonesy Boy, and today we're reading Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear Frights. This is not usually something that happens on my channel, and that's for very good reasons. If you ever met me in real life, you'll learn fast. I do not like books. But hey, that's why we're here, aren't we? As it says on screen, a singular chapter, because there are no chapters in this book, is 20 pages. So in this episode, I'm going to be reading 20 pages. In the next episode, I'm going to be reading 20 pages. I don't expect this to get good views, but maybe someone out there would like it, instead of paying for it. Let's start this off right. The dead possum, still there. Oswald was looking out the passenger window at the gray, furry corpse on the side of the road. Somehow it looked even deader than it did yesterday. Last night's rain didn't help. Nothing looks deader than a dead possum, Oswald's dad said. Except this town, Oswald mumbled, looking at the boarded-up storefronts. The displays windows which were displaying nothing but dust. What's that? Dad said. He was already wearing the stupid red vest they put him in when he worked the deli counter at the snack space. Oswald wished he'd wait to put it on after he'd dropped him at school. This town, Oswald said, louder this time. This town looks deader than a dead possum. His dad laughed. Well, I guess I can argue with that. 3 years ago, when Oswald was 7, there had actually been stuff to do here. A movie theater, a game and card store, an ice cream shop with amazing waffle cones. But then the mill had closed. The mill had basically been the reason the town existed. Oswald's dad had lost his job, and so had hundreds of other kids, moms, and dads. Lots of families had moved away, including Oswald's best friend, Ben, and his family. Oswald's family had stayed because his mom's job at the hospital was steady, and they didn't want to move far away from Grandma. So Dad ended up in a part-time job at the snack space, which paid $5 an hour, less than he made at the mill. And Oswald watched the town die. One business after another shut down, like the organs in a dying body, because nobody had the money for movies, games, or amazing waffle cones anymore. Are you excited for the last day of school? Dad asked. It was one of those questions adults always asked, like, how was your day? And, did you brush your teeth? Oswald shrugged. I guess. But there's nothing to do, with Ben gone. School's boring, but home's boring too. When I was 10, I wasn't home in the summer until I got called for supper, Dad said. I rode my bike, played baseball, and got into all kinds of trouble. Are you saying I should get in trouble? Oswald said. No, I'm saying you should have fun. Dad pulled into the drop-off line in front of the Westbrook Elementary. Have fun. He made it sound so easy. Oswald walked through the school's double doors and ran smack into Dylan Cooper, the last person he wanted to see. Oswald was apparently the first person Dylan wanted to see through. Because his mouth spread in a wide grin, Dylan was the tallest kid in the 5th grade and clearly enjoyed looming over his victims. Well, if it isn't Oswald the Ocelot, he said, his grin spreading impossibly wider. That one never gets old, does it? Oswald walked past Dylan, and was relieved when his tormentor chose not to follow him. When Oswald was in his 5th grade, classmates were preschoolers. There was a cartoon on one of the little kid channels about the big pink ocelot named Oswald. As a result, Dylan and his friends started calling him Oswald the Ocelot. On the first day of kindergarten, and it never stopped. Dylan was kind of kid who'd pick on anything that made you different. If it hadn't been Oswald's name, it would have been his freckles or his cowlick. The name-calling had gotten much worse this year in U.S. history when they learned about the man who shot John F. Kennedy was named Lee Harvey Oswald. Oswald would rather be an ocelot than an assassin. Since it was the last day of school, there was no attempt at doing any kind of real work. Mrs. Meacham had announced the day before the students were allowed to bring their electronics as long as they took responsibility for anything getting lost or broken. This announcement meant that no effort would be made toward any educational activities of any kind. Oswald didn't have any modern electronics, true. There was one laptop at home, but the whole family shared it, and he wasn't allowed to bring it to school. He had a phone, but it was the saddest, most out-of-date model imaginable. And he didn't want to take it out of his pocket because he knew any kid who saw it would make fun of how pathetic it was. So while other kids played games on their tablets or handheld consoles, Oswald sat. After sitting became intolerable, he took out a notebook and pencil and started to draw. He wasn't the best artist in the world, but he could draw well enough that his images were identifiable. There was a certain cartoony quality about his drawings that he liked. The best thing about drawing, though, was he could get lost in it. It was like he fell into the paper and became part of the scene he was creating. It was a welcome escape. He didn't know why, but lately he had been drawing mechanical animals, bears, bunnies, and birds. Wink. He imagined them being human-sized and moving with the jerkiness of robots in an old science fiction movie. They were furry on the outside, but the fur covered a hard metal skeleton filled with gears and circuits. Something he drew, the animals, exposed metal skeletons or sketched them with fur peeled back to show some mechanical workings underneath. It was a creepy effect, like seeing a person's skull peeking out from beneath the skin. Oswald was so immersed in his drawing that he was startled when Mrs. Meacham turned off the lights to show a movie. Movies always seem like a teacher's final act of desperation on the day before break. A way to keep the kids quiet and relatively still for an hour and a half before setting them loose for summer. The movie Mrs. Meacham chose was Oswald's opinion too babyish for a roomful of 5th graders. It was about a farm with talking animals, and he had watched it before, but he watched it again because really, what else did he have to do? At recess, kids stood around tossing a ball back and forth and talking about what they were going to do over the summer. I'm going to football camp. I'm going to basketball camp. I'm going to hang out in my neighborhood pool. I'm going to stay with my grandparents in Florida. Oswald sat on the bench and listened. For him, there was no camps, no pool memberships, no trips, because there was no money. So he'd draw pictures, play his old video games that he already beaten 1,000 times, and maybe go to the library. If Ben were still here, it would be different. Even if they were just doing the same old stuff, they'd be doing it together. And Ben could always make Oswald laugh, riffing on video game characters or doing perfect impressionization of one of their teachers. He and Ben had no matter what they did. But now a summer without Ben yawned before him, wide and empty. Most days Oswald's mom worked from 12 p.m. until 12 a.m., so his dad had to make dinner. Usually they got by on frozen meals like lasagna or chicken pot pie, or on cold cuts and potato salad from the snack space deli that were still good enough to eat, but not good enough to sell. When Dad did cook, it was usually things that just required boiling water. While Dad got their dinner ready, Oswald's job was to feed Jinx, their very spoiled black cat. Oswald often thought that he used to about the same amount of cooking skill in opening Jinx's can of stinky cat food as his dad used in his dinner preparations. Tonight, Oswald and Dad were sitting down to plates of blue box mac and cheese and some canned corn his dad had zapped from the microwave. It was a very yellow meal. You know, I was thinking, Dad said, squirting ketchup into his macaroni and cheese. Why did he do that? Oswald wondered. I know you're old enough to stay home by yourself, but I don't like the idea of you staying by yourself a whole day while your mom and I are at work. I was thinking you could ride into town with me in the mornings, and I could drop you off at the library. You could read, surf the net. Oswald couldn't let this one slide. How to date his dad be? Nobody says surf the net anymore, Dad. They do now, because I just said it. Dad forked up some macaroni. Anyways, I thought you could hang out in the library in the mornings. When you get hungry, you could head over to Jeff's Pizza for a slice and a soda. And I could pick you up there once my shift's over there at 3. Oswald considered it for the moment. Jeff's Pizza was kind of weird. It wasn't dirty exactly, but it was run down. The vinyl in the booth seats had been repaired with duct tape, and the plastic letters had fallen off the menu board above the counter, so the listed toppings included pepperon and hamburger, and it was clear that Jeff's Pizza used to be something bigger and better than it was now. There were tons of unused floor space and lots of unusual electrical outlets along the base of the walls. Also on the far wall was a small stage, even though there were no performances there, not even so much as karaoke night. It was a strange place, sad and not what it once been. Like the rest of town, that being said, the pizza was decent, and more important, it was the only pizza in town if you didn't count the kind from the frozen food department in the snack space. The few good restaurants in town, including Gino's Pizza and Marco's Pizza, which unlike Jeff's had real pizza maker names, had closed their doors not long after the mill had. So, you'll give me money for pizza? Oswald said. Since Dad's job loss, Oswald's allowance had dwindled to practically nothing. Dad smiled. Kind of a sad smile. It seemed to Oswald, son, we're bad off. But we're not so bad off, I can't spot you 3.50 for a slice and a soda. Sorry, I thought that said 35. Okay, Oswald said. It was hard to say no to a warm, gooey cheese slice, since it wasn't a school night and wouldn't be again for quite some time. Oswald stayed up after Dad went to bed and watched an old Japanese monster movie with Jinx curled up purring on his lap. Oswald had seen a lot of B-grade Japanese horror films, but this one, Zeldarix vs. Mechazendorix, was new to him. As always, Zeldarix just looked like a giant dragon thing, but Mechazendorix reminded him of the mechanical animals he drew when he stripped them of their fur. He laughed at the movie's special effects. The train Strendolix destroyed was clearly a toy, and how the actor's lip movement didn't match the dubbed in English. Somehow, though, he always found himself rooting to Zanderlex, even though he was just a guy in a rubber suit. Somehow he managed to have a lot of personality. In bed, he tried to count his blessings. He didn't have Ben, but he had monster movies and a library and lunchtime pizza slices. It was better than nothing, but it still wasn't going to be enough to keep him going all summer. Please, he wished, his eyes closed tight. Please let something interesting happen. Oswald woke to smell of coffee and bacon. The coffee he could do without, but the bacon smelled amazing. So what I forgot to put down is every 10 pages I'm just gonna take a quick sip, skip like 30 seconds, and not 30 but like 10, and then I should be good. Breakfast meant time with his mom, often the only time he got with her until the weekend. After one necessary stop, he hurried down the hall to the kitchen. Well, look at that. My rising sixth grader has risen. Mom was standing over a stove in her fuzzy pink bathrobe, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, flipping. Oh, yum. Were those pancakes? Hi, Mom. She opened her arms. I demanded a morning hug. Oswald sighed, like it annoyed him, but he went over and hugged her. It was funny. With Dad, he always said he was too old for hugs, but he never turned down his mom's open arms. Maybe it was because he didn't get to spend much time with her during the week. While he and Dad spent so much time together, they sometimes got on each other's nerves. He knew Mom missed him and felt bad for having to work such long hours. But he also knew that since Dad's job at the snack space was part-time, Mom's long hours were just the reason the bills were getting paid. Mom always said that adult life was a fright between the time and money. The more money you earn to spend on bills and necessities, the less time you got to spend with your family. It was a difficult balance. Oswald sat down at the kitchen table and thanked his mom when he poured his orange juice. First day of summer break, huh? Mom went back to the stove to scoop a pancake with her spatula. Uh-huh. He never would have tried to sound more enthusiastic, but he couldn't muster the energy. She slid the pancake onto his plate and then served him 2 strips of bacon. Not the same without Ben, huh? He shook his head. He was going to cry. Mom ruffled his hair. I know it's a bummer, but hey, maybe a new friend will move into town. Oswald looked at her hopeful face. Why would anybody move here? Okay, I see your point, Mom said, piling on another pancake. But you never know. Or maybe somebody cool already lives here. Somebody you don't even know yet. Maybe, but I doubt it, Oswald said. These pancakes are great, though. Mom smiled and ruffled his hair again. Well, I've got what going for me anyway. Do you want more bacon? If you do, you better grab it before your dad gets in here and vacuums it all up. Sure, it was Oswald's personal policy to never to refuse more bacon. Amen. The library is actually kind of fun. He found the latest book in science fiction series, and he liked, and manga that looked interesting. As always, he had to wait forever to use the computers because they were already taken by people who looked like they had no place else to be. Men with scraggly beards, wearing layers of ratty clothing, two thin women with sad eyes and bad teeth. He waited his turn politely, knowing that some of these people used the library for shelter during the day. then spent the night on the streets. Jeff's Pizza was as weird as he remembered. The big empty space beyond the booths and tables was like a dance floor where nobody danced. The walls were painted a pale yellow, but they must have used cheap paint or only one coat, because shapes of whatever had been on the walls before were still visible. It had only been some kind of mural with people or animals, but now it was just shadows behind a thin veil of yellow paint. Oswald sometimes tried to figure out what the shapes were, but they were too blobby to make out. Then there was a stage that never got used, standing empty but seemingly waiting for something. Though a feature even weirder than the stage lay back on the back right corner. It was a large rectangular pen surrounded by yellow netting, but it had been roped off with a sign that had "Do not use." The pen itself was filled with red, blue, and green plastic balls that had probably been brightly colored once, but now are faded and fuzzy with dust. Oswald knew that ball pits had been popular features in kiddie playlands, but had largely disappeared because of concerns about hygiene. After all, who's going to disinfect all those balls? Oswald had no doubt that if ball pits had still been popular when he was little, his mom wouldn't have let him play with one. As a licensed practical nurse, she was always happy to point out places she found to be too germy to play in. And when Oswald would complain that she never let him have any fun, she'd say, "You know it's not fun? Pink eye!" Except for the empty stage and the ball pit, the strangest feature in Jeff's Pizza was Jeff himself. He seemed to be the only person who worked there, so he both took orders at the counter and made the pizzas. But the place was never crowded enough that this was a problem. Today, like all of their days, Jeff looked as if... Sorry, I lost the place. Looked as if... Frick, where is it? Jeff looked as if he hadn't slept in a week. His dark hair was stinging up in weird places, and he had alarming bags under his bloodshot eyes. His apron was stained with both recent and aged tomato sauce. "What can I get ya?" he asked Oswald, sounding bored. "A cheese slice and an orange soda, please," Oswald said. Jeff stared off into the distance as though he had to think about whether the request was a reasonable one or not. Finally, he said, "Okay, $3.50. One thing you could say about Jeff's pizza slices, they were huge. Jeff served them on flimsy white paper plates that were soon stained with grease, and the corners of the triangles were always overlapped with the plate's rims. Oswald settled into the booth with his slice and soda. The first bite, the tip of the triangle, was always the best. Somehow the proportions of all the flavors in that bite were perfect. He savored the warm, melty cheese, the tangy sauce, and a pleasantly greasy crust. As he ate, he looked around at a few other customers. A pair of mechanics from an oil change place had folded their pepperoni slices like they were eating them like sandwiches. A table full of office workers clumsily attacked by their slices with plastic forks and knives. Ew. So they wouldn't drip sauce on their ties and blouses, Oswald guessed. After Oswald finished his slice, he wished for one more, but knew he didn't have the money for it. So he wiped off his greasy fingers, took out his library book. He sipped a soda and read, Falling into the World, where kids with secret powers went to a special school to learn how to fight evil. Kid! A man, I used that wrong. Kid! A man's voice startled Oswald out of the story. He looked up to see Jeff in his sauce-stained apron. Oswald figured he had outstayed his welcome. He had sat in the booth reading for 2 hours after having bought a meal that cost less than $4. Yes, sir, Oswald said, because politeness never hurt. I got a couple more cheese slices that didn't sell at lunch. You want 'em? Oh, Oswald said. No thanks. I don't have any more money. He wished he did, though. On the house, Jeff said. I just have to throw 'em out anyway. Oh, okay. Sure, thanks. Jeff picked up Oswald's empty cup. I'll get you some more orange soda while I'm at it. Thanks. It was funny. Jeff's expression never changed. He looked tired and miserable, even when he was being extra nice. Jeff brought 2 slices stacked on paper plate and a fresh cup of orange soda. Here you go, kid, he said, setting down a cup and plate. Thank you. Oswald wondered for a moment if Jeff felt sorry for him, if Jeff might think he was terribly poor like the homeless people who hung out all day in the library, instead of just regular, barely making ends meet poor that he was. But then Oswald figured if was free pizza sitting in front of you, maybe it wasn't time to worry about reasons for it. Maybe it was time to eat. Oswald had no problem polishing off the 2 huge slices for the past month. His appetite had been unstoppable. My mom cooked him piles of pancakes in the morning. She said he must be a growth spurt, causing him to eat like he had a hollow leg. His phone vibrated in his pocket the second he sucked down the last of his soda. He looked at his text. We'll be at front of Jeff's in 2 minutes. Perfect timing. It had been a good day. The days at the library in Chesapeake started to add up. The first couple of weeks had been great, but now the library didn't have the next book in the series he was reading. And he had grown bored with his online fantasy game, which, while advertised was free, now wouldn't let him advance any further without paying money. He had gotten tired of not having anybody his age to hang out with. He hadn't gotten tired of pizza yet, but he was starting to imagine that he might in the future. Tonight was family fun night, a one night a week event that varied depending on Mom's work schedule. Back when the mill was still open, family fun night meant dinner in a restaurant, pizza, or Chinese or Mexican. After their meal, they'd do some fun activity together. They'd go to the movies if something kid-friendly was playing, but if not, they'd go to the bowling alley or the roller rink where Mom and Dad used to go on dates when they were in high school. Mom and Dad were great skaters, and Oswald was terrible, but they'd skate on either side of him, holding his hands and keeping him up. They usually topped off the event with a waffle cone at the ice cream place downtown. Oswald and Mom would make fun of Dad because no matter what ice cream flavors were available, he always got vanilla. Since the mill closed down, though, Family Fun Night has turned into an at-home affair. Mom would make something for dinner that was easy but festive, like tacos from a mix of or hot dogs. They'd eat and then play board games or watch a movie they'd rented from bread box. It was still fun, of course, but sometimes Oswald wished aloud for the old days of seeing new movies at the theater and having waffle cones after. And Dad had to remind him that the important thing was that they got all to spend the time together. Sometimes when their weather was nice, they'd have a family fun night. They'd pack a picnic of cold nuts and salads, courtesy of the snack space, and head over to State Park. They'd eat after they'd eat their dinner at a wooden table and watch the squirrels and birds and raccoons. Afterward, they'd go for a walk on one of the hiking trails. These outings were always a nice change, but Oswald was so aware of why these were the only family fun nights that never got him out of the house. Picnics were free. Tonight they were staying home. Mom had made spaghetti and garlic bread. They had played a game of Clue, which Mom won, as usually did, and now they were piled up on the couch together in their pajamas. With a huge bowl of popcorn between them, watched a remake of an old science fiction movie. Once the movie was over, Dad said, "Well, that was a pretty good, but not as good as the real version." "What do you mean?" "The real version," Oswald said. "That was the real version." "Not really," Dad said. "I mean, it was set in the same universe as the real version, but it was kind of a cheap knockoff of the one that came out when I was a kid." Dad always had to be so opinionated. He could never just watch something and enjoy it. "So the best movies are always the ones that you watched when you were a kid," Oswald said. "Not always in this case, yes." Dad was settling in. Oswald could tell from one of the favorite things a good argument. "But if special effects in the original version stink," Oswald said. "All those puppets and rubber masks. I'll take a puppet over model over CGI any day," Dad said, leaning back on the couch and propping his feet on the coffee table. "That stuff is so slick and fake. It's not so it got no warmth, no texture. And besides, you like those old Zenderlich movies, and the special effects in those are terrible." "Yeah, but I just watch those to make fun of them," Oswald said. "Even though he really did think Zelda Rex was pretty cool." Mom came in from the kitchen with bowls of ice cream. Not as good as waffle cone place, but nothing turned up their nose either. "Okay, if you guys don't cut out the nerd argument, I'm going to pick the next movie we watch. It's going to be a romantic comedy." Oswald and his dad shut up immediately. "That's about what I thought," Mom said, passing around the bowls of ice cream. As Oswald was lying in bed sketching his mechanical animals, his phone vibrated on the nightstand. There was only one person other than his parents who ever texted them. "Hey," Ben typed on his screen. "Hey, back," Oswald typed. "How's your summer?" "Awesome. At Myrtle Beach." "How's your summer?" Oswald typed. "Awesome. At Myrtle Beach for vacation, it's so cool. Arcades and mini golf anywhere." "Everywhere." "Yeah, that is true." "Jealous," Oswald typed, and he meant it. "A beach with arcades and mini golf really does sound awesome. I wish you were here," Ben typed. "Me too." That is the 20th page exactly. So, what I'm seeing with this, it has a lot of story. We're only on page 20 and get only one break, but it's not my fault. And we still have about 47 more pages until the final inning. So yeah, that's gonna be very interesting. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, hit the like button, read the heck out of the subscribe button, and maybe I'm not going to tell you to turn on the notification bell. No. I want you to be notified the next time I next time you want to learn more about reading. Thank you guys for watching, and have a super fantastic, wonderful day. See you guys.